southwestern region of the United States. In this land toward the setting sun, we seek to discover what kind of a country it is. And why International Harvester chose a section of Arizona as a proving ground for motor trucks. Out here we'll see motor trucks being put through their paces, being tried out after latest engineering developments. Proving trucks to see if they can take it is a rugged business, and it requires a place having unusual conditions in which to do it. So we'll see how the testing of motor trucks fits into this western landscape. The Arizona country today is a region of surprises, a place of striking contrast. In only a few hours, you can go from the hot and arid desert up into the mountain regions where, in the winter season, temperatures are as low as 25 degrees below zero. Here you can get snowbound, and the snowpack remains well into summer. A lot of this land is still just as rough as in early times and can only be traveled on horseback. And here's a modern touch. After a day on the range, the cowboy and his horse can now ride partway home by truck. Much of Arizona has highly developed agriculture, but there still are places where the outlook is just as grim as it looked to the first explorers. This is the Arizona of the tarantula, the hot, dry sand inhabited by the desert centipede, and the horned toad, that strange little creature. Arizonians like to tell of the fabulous frogs who grew to enormous size but have never been able to find enough water in which to swim. In one of the dry and rocky areas just over the mountains from the modern city of Phoenix, International Harvester found the ideal spot for a proving ground for its fleet of motor trucks. Here the age-old rocks are inscribed with petroglyphs left by an ancient people. Some of these strange markings are thought to be the road signs of early Indian trails. Today, this same landscape is crisscrossed by new but equally strange trails. Roads used exclusively by motor trucks on endurance tests. Because the land is rough, just as nature left it, the place is especially suitable for grueling tests of truck performance. The engineers planned the proving ground to take advantage of what nature left in the raw, and which even the Indians had abandoned as unproductive. Roads and grades were laid out by International Harvester engineers, and during the 6 years in which the area was developed, it served as an ideal testing place for heavy-duty industrial power units. Tractors with bulldozers first made pioneer cuts through the cactus and brush and bronze. To build the main roads, they moved over 130,000 cubic yards of earth from adjacent valleys to make the field. During all this construction, the industrial power equipment encountered as tough operating conditions as road builders might be expected to find on any job. They even built an airstrip so that at times emergency parts or engineering staff can get there quickly from the east. Established a 20% and a 30% grade for motor truck testing, the crawler tractors and other equipment from the Industrial Power Division are seen here constructing a 40% and a 60% grade. These slopes should provide just about the ultimate in testing maximum traction possibilities and pulling power. One of the roads is a paved track, 7¼ miles around, believed to be the longest such test track in the world. There is also a rough dirt track 4 miles around. And there are 11 miles of access roads, dusty roads, and hill climbs used for special tests. Set down on the hot sands of this desert whipping post is a headquarters around which the test fleet continually revolves. The staff works the year round in this unique place, which is strictly not a summer resort. Here the thermometer goes crazy. It varies 100 degrees through the year, and sometimes as high as 118 in the shade. Ground temperatures have been registered as high as 158 degrees. A fleet of 30 or more trucks of all types is constantly maintained. Some are current models taken at random from production lines. Some are newly engineered trucks or contain new component parts here for final proving after preliminary testing at the engineering laboratory at Fort Wayne. Frequently, more trucks arrive from the laboratory and from international truck factories at Fort Wayne, Bridgeport, Springfield, and Emeryville, as well as engines from the factory at Indianapolis. In addition, there are competitive makes of trucks, which are run on comparative tests, for obviously such comparisons add to the total of performance information. All of the trucks are loaded to capacity with a varying number of 1,000-pound weights. The larger trucks are 20% overloaded, not because overloading is good practice, but because for test purposes, overloads speed up the wear-out process. At each shift change, all through 24 hours a day, trucks scatter out over the 6.5 square miles of rugged terrain, where the fleet rolls as much as 40,000 miles a week. As the pickups, the trucks, and the truck tractors with loaded trailers roll up their mileage, the purpose is to prove the performance of every part of the equipment, for such things as lasting quality of all the materials, economy of oil and fuel consumption, engine cooling performance at high temperature, and the functioning of all working parts. Here the roads are all one way, so the trucks can use either lane. And because these roads are free from public traffic, tests can be made at high speed with safety. Night and day, round the clock, the drive goes on. As the third shift comes on at midnight, one bunch of these rugged drivers checks out, after having a coffee refresher and swapping a little road talk. And another crew goes out into the night to continue the drive. The smaller trucks run an average of 1,000 miles in a 24-hour day, and the big trucks do 750 to 850 miles a day. Why so much mileage accumulated so fast? Why? Because it is important to know what the commercial operator is up against when his trucks must keep rolling night and day on long hauls from one end of America to the other. So on the proving ground, the drivers are not only driving, but observing all the time, watching their indicators, feeling their gear, listening for any unusual sound, noting the things which affect the physical comfort or strain on themselves. All these drivers are experienced in regular commercial truck operation. One of these fellows, in fact, has driven 2.5 million miles during his 29 years experience behind the wheel. They all know what to look for, are quick to spot something wrong, and also can easily recognize top-notch performance. One place they'll recognize performance is on the long 9% grade. This grade, which was built up at one point 78 feet higher than the original ground level, requires drivers of the larger trucks to run through their entire gear range each time up the grade. Doing 100 laps a day on the paved loop means 2,500 gear shifts a day. Let's listen to him as he works his way up the hill. Just as important, as well as brake control and testing. An important part of this test procedure is coordinating the brakes between the tractors and their heavily loaded trailers. A fifth wheel is attached to a truck for special braking and acceleration tests. A gauge records accurately the deceleration rate when brakes are applied. Truck looks odd out here in the middle of nowhere, doesn't it? But tests of stopping and starting are done over and over and over with milk trucks, metros, and other such trucks, which have to do the same things hundreds of times a day in the city. So in cities and towns everywhere, you'll see these trucks going about their daily routine jobs. And their ability to stand up under long and steady usage has been well tested. The dirt roads on the proving grounds are a real test of shock and strain. This section of Arizona has an extremely hard pack and heavy crust. So it is no problem here to provide dirt roads and test trails with surfaces as rough as can be found anywhere. On such roads, sheet metal of poor quality or inferior design could crack or tear. Here are places where anything can come loose or break. You can dig in without any effort. Then if you can pull out, you're good. Here also are good places to make test runs with competitive makes of trucks. You can get a true comparison of endurance. Of course, driving a truck to destruction, if possible, is a good way to learn the most about performance in the quickest way. It may seem unnecessary to take fine, new equipment and deliberately give it a beating by more sustained running and twisting and hard knocks than might normally be expected of any truck in regular commercial usage. But in the interest of correcting possible faults, seeking improvements, and building in better economy, safety, and convenience for future users, it is well worthwhile. The twisting figure 8 course is truly a desert whipping post. Here the drivers whip their trucks, equipped with extra side wheel outriggers to prevent overturning, through a series of loops hundreds of times. This kind of treatment is a severe test on such parts as wheels, and their studs, spindles, and bearings, steering knuckles, kingpins, and bushings, to see if they can take it. Round and round, again and again they go. The proving ground has plenty of natural dust, but more is deliberately created by tearing up a road. This region contains dust of extremely abrasive quality. Dust from this area has been selected as a standard dust for air cleaner tests, specified by the Society of Automotive Engineers. Cab sealing is tested by looking for dust patterns which might form around the sheet metal joints or at the seals of windows or doors. You see why keeping dust out is so important. In trucks like these, which are delivering food products or quality merchandise from the stores, the truck operator must have trucks with dust-proof bodies. Dirt, gravel, and steep grades are the ultimate test of what a truck will do on the job. On the special grades which were constructed at the proving ground, they try out the various trucks on steeper grades and with heavier loads, and the same model of trucks might be expected to encounter in the off-highway industry. So when the user's trucks go to work in quarries or strip mines or on similar rough jobs in out-of-the-way places, their ability to hold traction, to maintain power, and to climb with heavy and sometimes shifting loads has been well proven. Winter comes to northern Arizona, the trucks head for the mountains, where the main highways are kept open as much of the time as possible, permitting access to elevations up to 10,000 feet. Coming directly up from the warm lowlands, the test drivers can now check on how carburetors work at high altitudes. low temperatures on all the operating parts of the truck. Here's one place where drivers really appreciate how efficiently a cab heater works. Ooh, it's cold outside. Coming down the snowy and sometimes icy grades is a test of brake control, just as important as ability to climb up the snowy or slushy grades. Into and out of the high country of Arizona are many long, twisting grades which are a real proof of many things the engineers have to find out. So this proving is the final phase of a long series of steps which may have started a number of years back in the idea of a customer, a salesman, a designer, or an engineer. It is most important to keep complete records of fuel, mileage, speeds, and oil consumption. A tachograph in the cab records many of the items of information all through the day's run, after which the card is removed, and these records entered along with the driver's daily report sheet. Each 24-hour card is a complete record in itself, from 12 noon around the clock. The red band shows when the vehicle was being operated, with the brakes in the band indicating stops. A small line traced outside or inside this band shows whether or not the motor was idling during the stop. The lowest and highest speed on each lap are recorded on this graph. The outer graph shows the mileage. After all test runs, in fact, after every 2,000 miles and also after every 10,000 miles, the service checkups at the shop are when most of the vital information is disclosed. Visitors to the test course have remarked on how clean the trucks are kept, and there's a good reason. The trucks are steam cleaned when they come out of the Arizona dust, because it is important that all surfaces, inside and out, be visible for minute inspection. Expert servicemen and mechanics go over the trucks and the parts as well as the driver's reports. Every part's failure, every faulty operation, and every minor nuisance item is recorded, along with the cause of the deficiency and the action taken to correct it. Wearing surfaces are measured. Brakes, seals, pumps, wiring, gears are all gone over minutely. Power checks are made on the chassis dynamometer. This device will determine if horsepower is being maintained uniformly. Regular tests of ignition systems are going on during the constant studies of reduction of fuel and oil consumption. The newest service tools are employed to determine whether they are adequate for proper maintenance service. Occasionally, the need for a special tool may result in a new one being designed and put into use. Through such observation and preventive maintenance, good shop methods are developed which can be employed successfully by the thousands of dealers who are servicing international trucks throughout the world. Each truck or each tested part has a detailed history while it was on the proving ground. The mass of information includes mileage, fuel and oil records, driver's observations, shop reports, parts failures and wear-outs, or unusual difficulties or occurrences. A lot is learned by studying the behavior of a truck during 50,000 miles, and all this valuable data is reported back in frequent progress reports and in final reports to the engineering department. Here at the engineering laboratory, the results of standard endurance tests and special tests at the proving ground are eagerly awaited and carefully analyzed. For it is here that the new designs and improvements were initiated. They were launched because the engineers are under a continuing urge to find ways of bettering the product, of building more toughness and greater economy into the trucks. Their job is to find ways to get more and more ton miles per dollar, to make less metal do more work. Over 1 million international motor trucks are rolling today on the highway, and on the farms, on the city streets, and in the industries of the world. Wherever there is commerce or agriculture, manufacturing or business, new construction works or development of natural resources, international trucks are carrying a large part of the load. Their record of performance, long life and economy need not be dwelt upon, for they are well known. But the performance of today, which is the cumulative result of nearly a half-century of truck manufacturing experience, will no doubt be judged as inadequate when looked back upon 10 or 20 or 30 years from now. Because always there is change and improvement, a constant seeking for something better. And so as the trucks come and go on the proving ground and in test fleets in other parts of the country, running 3 million miles a year, there is a constant challenge to the best thinking and best efforts in designing the trucks of the future, those which will be worthy of manufacture. Only by pounding and pounding the trucks of today, by constant observation of how they perform, by ever seeking where there is need for something different or room for improvement, can the trucks of tomorrow be designed and built.